Hello my lovely humans, welcome back to my channel. I'm FCA and today we are going to talk about some more Donna Adelson drama. This is going to be more than likely our last Donna Adelson update. We'll see what happens with Wendy. And because we're at sentencing, so we're gonna pop back right before sentencing. Donna had put in motions to interview 2 of the jurors that had come forward, and one of them who had spoken on Surviving the Survivor, and then the 4th person who had come forward on her TikTok and talked about it. Now, the reason why Donna had wanted to talk to them, give them interviews, is because she said that there was jury misconduct on their part, and it would need to have her whole trial dismissed because of jury misconduct. Specifically claiming that because the 4th person had been on TikTok and making TikToks right before and during the trial, and they had given the defense had given the judge the TikTok, the original TikTok, and they said that it had been deleted to their knowledge and they had it on a thumb drive, but Judge Everett had looked it up himself and it was not deleted and that it was perfectly in line with things. The 4th person's TikTok had been her kind of looking out and a caption going, "When you ask God for a break and he gives you jury duty." Now, telling people that you have jury duty is not in violation. In fact, there are some cases where you're obligated to tell people you have jury duty. Bosses, doctors, just other things that might be going on in your life. Telling people you have jury duty is, in and of itself, is not banned in any way. Now, you're not allowed to talk about specifically what trial you're on, and you're not allowed to look up information about the trial or share information about the trial. Because if you do, you're going to get in trouble like the Karen Reed grand juror. Talk about that another time. But that the 4th person, according to the judge, was perfectly in line, and none of her other TikToks that she had on there during the time of trial had anything to do with the trial, and that people are allowed on social media. They're just not allowed to come across stuff that has to do with the trial, and if they do, they have to report it, and most people do, just for integrity's sake or maybe even to get out of it. But the 4th person, they were like, yeah, this isn't going to pass here. And then for the 2nd juror who they wanted to interview from Surviving the Survivor, they said that because he had admitted that he had been watching Donna Adelson like a hawk during the trial, and even though in the interview he had said that it wasn't in deliberation, and they mentioned that in their actual motion, they had noted that he had said that her behavior was not taken into consideration in deliberation, they wanted to interview him anyway. And the judge was like, your contradiction is noted, and so is the fact that the precedents for these kind of post-verdict interviews with the jurors have not been met, motion denied, and of course, therefore, the motion for jury misconduct to get a dismissal was also denied. So then the sentencing of Donna Adelson got bumped up to be a little bit earlier, and this is the time where it's usually not just a straight sentence. This is the time for witness impact statements and character statements. Witness impact statements had already been done right after the verdict, but the witness character statements are for people to come forward on Donna's behalf or the defendant, Donna herself, to be able to say some words, make a statement. Usually these are explaining the better parts that the jury and judge did not get to see during trial. And it's basically a plea for the judge to be as lenient as they can. The people who came forward for Donna, almost all of them had to be interrupted by Judge Everett because all of them, including Harvey Adelson, were all trying to relitigate the trial. They all accused the jury of being biased because of not being in a different venue, that having the trial in Tallahassee was biasing the jury against Donna and that she couldn't get a fair trial in that town, using the same defense when they had tried to get a change of venue like Brian Kohlberger in Idaho had gotten. And And that because of that, there wasn't any evidence, and it was just so unfair to Donna. She didn't deserve to have this happen. She was a good grandmother and a good mother, a good friend, and that there isn't any evidence against her. And the judge had to interrupt all of them, specifically going through the lawyer, Jackie Fulford. Just the whole time the judge was, Mrs. Fulford, this is not a character statement. This is trying to relitigate the trial. And almost every time the judge interrupted them, the person didn't have much to say after that. And then Harvey Adelson, shock of the century with this guy, he came forward yelling. He was mad as hornets. He was PO'd. He was going at it. He even was sitting there shouting, going, because of a biased judge. He told the judge to his face that he was a biased judge and a biased jury. And once again, the judge said, "One moment, sir. Mrs. Fulford, this is not a character statement." And Harvey looked angry, and also like the wind had been taken out of his sails. And we got to sit there and watch Mrs. Fulford crossing out most of everything else that Harvey wanted to say, because it really seems like Harvey Adelson was going to give this judge a piece of his mind, and then the slice wasn't as big as he intended. And after that, he was just like, "This is wrong, and my wife doesn't deserve this. She was a good woman." Okay. Then it was Donna Adelson's turn. Now, Donna Adelson's statement starts out spicy to begin with, because the judge goes, "All right, let's get her," let's get her sworn in. And her lawyers were the most prepared that they were the entire trial, because they were immediately like, case law, case law, case law. Here are all the legal reasons why our client does not have to give a statement under oath, doesn't have to give her statement under oath. Oh? Why don't you want to give an under oath, could be charged with perjury or impeachment statement, Donna? Are you going to say something that may be less than truthful, perhaps? Or that you don't want something that can be brought up against you at a later time, perhaps? Maybe something that might hurt your appellate case? But again, they were ready. They were like, "Judge, Your Honor, case law, case law, case law." Like, the whole trial, you guys were a fumbling, unready mess, and now you're on it? Okay. So Donna didn't have to be sworn in. The judge didn't seem to care too much. And then Donna also started out sort of angry, but she was saying really nice things about Dan Markell. She started off saying what a wonderful, great guy he was, and that his children and the students of Florida University are being deprived of a great, brilliant man, etc. And then she goes into that the jury was sleeping, the judge didn't believe her, that she was biased, and she wanted to know, where's the evidence? Where is the evidence against her? And she didn't, and she indicated that the prosecution had no right to call her a mastermind, because Katie McBanwell was called a mastermind in her trial. Charlie Adelson was called a mastermind in his trial. And so then they accuse her, an innocent grandmother, of being a mastermind. Because, Donna, there can be more than one mastermind. I know that typically a lot of us think of there's one person who comes up with the idea, but there can be a collaboration of people. In fact, that's where the conspiracy comes from, and the solicitation. You got other people involved. And other people who are involved in the planning, scheming, and plotting to end another person's life and or paying for the death of another person are crimes. And Donna just didn't seem to understand that. She, she didn't understand that one does not launder money by physically washing it. She doesn't seem to understand that conspiracies can be done by more than one person, and more than one person can be blamed for the planning, the masterminding of the crime. The statement ended up getting interrupted too, and a bunch of her stuff had to be crossed off. And you should have seen her face when the judge interrupted her and said, "One moment, Miss Adelson." And she went, she couldn't believe that she was being interrupted. She didn't look sad. She didn't look hurt. She looked unnerved, like, how dare you? And so most of her statement got to get taken out, and she also didn't have much to say about it afterwards. Now, maybe the reason is because she got convicted of first-degree murder, and that automatically carries a life sentence with no parole. They don't offer parole for first degree in Florida. So maybe that's why all of them were trying to say there was no evidence and everything was biased because of being in Tallahassee. But also because it seems like Donna Adelson and the Adelsons as a whole thought that they were such a much. They were acting like they were a big deal, and then they weren't. And I don't know what Donna was talking about. All the stuff the prosecution put on the screen, all the witnesses they had, you know, the text messages, the emails, the non-extradition country tickets, all of that stuff. And how about being involved in the bump, Donna? All the recorded phone calls. Those were the evidence for conspiracy and solicitation, Donna. And that's what you were charged with. There's also the reason behind why they think that the judge is biased is because Judge Everett also happened to be the judge who was on the Charlie Adelson case. In case you didn't know that. Donna also noted that everyone who should be in jail is in prison, that they are responsible, making no exception to Charlie Adelson, her son. And this is my speculation. This is my conspiracy theory. I think that Donna is still trying to hold a little bit of control, and she's still mad at Charlie for not giving up his lawyer. When she first got arrested, she wanted to use the lawyer that Charlie Adelson had used. I'm not sure why. You saw how that went out. Charlie got convicted too, but she wanted that lawyer. But the only way she could get that lawyer is if Charlie waived his rights to attorney-client privilege, because Charlie was going to be on her witness list, and that would have made it so that Charlie's lawyer, also, like Charlie is his client, that he would have had to cross-examine Charlie on behalf of Donna, which would violate their client-attorney privilege. And Donna fully expected that, like his whole life, that Charlie would fall in line. And he didn't. He said, "No, I'm not waiving my attorney rights." And Donna's still mad about it. I told her and warned her that her lack of remorse would be taken into consideration. But the lawyers, once again, the most prepared they've been the whole time, came up and were saying case law, case law, case law. And legally, once again, stating how the judge could not use his judgment of whether or not Donna felt remorseful, that she didn't have an obligation to be remorseful about a crime that she did not commit. And the judge said, "You're allowed to maintain innocence, but we're not going to redo this trial." Stand by that Donna, Katie, Charlie, and possibly Wendy are all going through the mindset of, if they weren't the ones who pulled the trigger, that they would not get the first-degree charge, that they would not catch a murder case if they were not the people physically doing the deed. But that's what conspiracy and solicitation charges are for. Ultimately, went with the exact same sentence that Katie Magbanois and Charlie Adelson had received in their trials, which was, of course, the life without parole, and then also 30 years for solicitation, 30 years for conspiracy. Both of those being served concurrently, which means at the same time, but consecutively to the life sentence. So you have a life sentence, And then after that's served, then the 30 years combined starts. So even though numerically it's 60 years, but because they're being served like day one and day one, they're at the same time, it ends up totaling 30 years. Donna's not getting out of prison. There is no appeal in the world that's going to save her, no matter how important and special she likes to think she is. That's not going to be the case because she's 75 years old. She's going to pass away an imprisoned woman. She was also charged with giving a $700,000 restitution. The defense tried to claim that that was way too high and that they demanded the documentation which would allow for a $700 restitution, and the almost smugness of the prosecutor when she went up and was like, "Here, judge, it's all on this thumb drive." Like, she just walked in, she said, "Judge, may I approach? It's all on this thumb drive. Here you go." And he was able to look through it, and she was indeed given a $700,000 restitution. It's extremely high, even in a first-degree case, but they were offering to pay $1 million between three of them, the Adelsons, to buy Dan Markel, the victim, into giving up his children to relocation. So, and they were paying probably almost $1 million to get him. So the judge was like, "And also your husband called me biased, 700. So that's where we are. We'll see what happens with appellate courts and whatnot. And we're also going to be waiting to hear to see what happens to Wendy Adelson. I want that conviction. I will feel bad about it. Well, I want that prosecution. I want that charge, because I truly do think that Wendy knew enough and was in on enough that she should be charged with something. But I also feel bad because that will mean that her sons, in very important developing years of their life, could lose. They already lost their father, and they're going to lose the closest grandparents they had. Dan Markel, the victim's family, lives in Canada, and then he would also be losing his mother if she got convicted. It's a rough thing, again, trying to line up morality with legality, but Donna is sentenced, charged, and she is done.